Where were you during the first COVID lockdown in March 2020? Were you in a big city or in the countryside? Were you in a house or in a small apartment? With who were you? With friends, family, alone? As for me, I was in the countryside in a big house with a big garden and surrounded with friends. On the contrary, I have friends that stayed in Paris in small apartments and alone. So now you start to understand that the impact of the first COVID lockdown on our health, be it mental or physical, might be completely different. I'm Lise Patron, a second-year PhD student at Nantes Université, and I'm working on the process and the reason why some local governments, such as cities, choose to integrate health and well-being into their urban projects. De facto, some scientists, they showed that our health depends on those socio-economic and environmental factors, as well as on our lifestyles. Some scientists, they even shows and they even say that 75 to 80% of our state of health actually depends on those factors, these determinants of health, and that genetics, individual components, and the accessibility and the existence of healthcare facility, they are just impacting about 20% of this state of health. So the place we live in, our urban environment, is actually impacting our well-being, but also our physical and our mental health. And that's what I'm working on as a PhD student. Because in France, integrating those health and well-being considerations into urban projects, into territory projects, into housing projects is not mandatory, as might be for environmental concerns sometimes. So, as a second-year PhD student at the University of Nantes, I'm actually trying to understand why do some local government, why do some cities, why do some territories choose to integrate these health and well-being consideration into their project, and how do they do so? So what is the method they use? What stakeholders do they include in the process? And once they do that, when they have done it, why do they choose to renew the experience, and how do they do so? So do they use the same method as the first time, or do they use another one? Do they implement it on the same scale, on the same level, for example, a building, or do they widen their strategy? And in the end, are these healthy territorial strategies impacting the way we're building cities? Are they impacting our town planning practices, our profession, the way we see our way to build the city, and how these health and well-being interviewing with other stakes such as climate change, for example? These are all the questions I'm trying to answer as part of my research work and for the next 2 years, and that are concerns that I think are at the heart of the EUniWell project, EUniWell being the European University of Wellbeing.